Okay. Work session has begun. We'll go ahead and start. I know Ken's supposed to be here. But as usual, we can, anytime we start our pre-meeting and someone shows up, we always ask them if they have anything to add. So 48 Mason's the first one, which we've seen that one before. I couldn't remember how it was a few years ago, but I think with the solar panels on the back, but now that they're looking for solar panels on the front. And so any comments from board members?
Mara, thanks for clarifying the ordinance for that when the historic. My comments were that if it wasn't changing the character of the building or permanently changing the architecture, that'd be allowed, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So anyway.
Yeah, the guidelines for preservation, the do state that solar panels should not be visible from the street. And that was also part of the ordinance that was adopted, forming the district and approved by the neighborhood association as well.
Yeah, I know that those are guidelines and to serve as guidelines. It's not a rule, but I feel like putting solar panels on the front of the house just takes away from the home as a whole, because they're not exactly attractive in the front.
Yeah, there's a house on Lockwood / Adams that faces Mary Queen that has solar panels, and it's kind of
Yeah.
not great. So.
I was the architect on that house, but not the solar
okay.
panels.
Nice house.
As the next owner. I have to admit, I understand the ordinance and all that, so I'm not gonna fight it, but you know, you got a situation here where somebody's not entitled to get solar panels on their house, and yet they walk out the backyard and look at the solar panels in their neighbor's house, which I just think trying to put a prohibition against using the sun is false.
There are other options. They could be mounted in the yard on
Well,
panels or on
nobody's
posts.
gonna
Well, I'm just saying there are options where it's not a prohibition against solar and
It's effectively a prohibition, but I'm not gonna fight it.
Yeah, and we've run across this before on other projects. There are shingles. I think we've had this discussion before too. There are shingle products which lay in with the roof itself and would match. That sort of approach seems more appealing to me. I think when you review these in a historic district with both the guidelines that were written and the Secretary of Interior standards, if you do the research on it, you know, it's really a could be a case by case review. So if it's a standing seam roof, there are products which lay into the flat part, and if if it's a certain kind of shingle, there's products which mount to the shingle. So in a sense, you keep the profile of the roof intact and you don't have this object protruding from it. And so I would agree that, you know, I think the guidelines and the National Register guidelines as well, both kind of give options to homeowners whose public face happens to be in a position where they would like to put solar. There are other options besides the ones that were presented.
Mhm.
And in this case, this house does have solar panels and they still have opportunities to put them on other areas on their, looks like they have a garage too. So that's kind of my thought on it.
The only other thought I have is, and I know it's an impossible task, but it sure would be nice if people in the community, short of going to, like I've seen some pretty big productions and design monies go into these things, knew to come in advance. And I don't know how you get that message across the community, but it'd be a big improvement, you know. People are spending thousands of bucks, and some of the solar people should know what the gig is up already, but it's a situation that it'd be nice if we could improve it. And I don't know that I don't know how you get the message to the community. I'm sure you'd be happy to do that if there's a vehicle by which you could do it, so.
All right. Next project, 25 and 29. I think that was actually a pre-approval, right?
Yeah.
All right, move on.
No, it's a pre.
Oh, sorry.
With a
That's the
question.
updated drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
This is the commercial building, right?
Changes. Pre-approved per the updated drawings received.
I'm okay with the updated drawings.
Oh, I got you. That's why we have to wait. Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right with the updated drawings as well. It answered the questions that I had.
Just out of curiosity, what were the changes? I looked at it.
They called out the materials.
Okay.
And the,
Oh, okay.
the brackets of the
more information.
canopies were
Right.
connecting
Okay.
at the soldier core so that
Yeah.
that detailed
Good.
brickwork,
And-
so we put it below.
I'm good with it.
And the material, I think, was also a question on the canopy itself. So they sent the cut sheet on that.
Now, is the intent to still paint the brick? They're gonna paint the brick on the original submittal, but I don't see references to painting.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
That falls outside of our purview too, though.
Oh, it does, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, technically the board is colorblind in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice with the nice new herringbone pattern
Okay.
work for it to be expressed rather than painted. So hopefully that'll be the case.
Yeah. I'm good to pre-approve this one.
Me too.
Same.
Got it. Do it.
Carol,
Yes.
okay. We can move that one to pre-approval. All right. Moving on. We got 740 East Pacific Avenue, which was pre-approved with a new drawing as well. Any comments on the revised drawings from board members?
The only thing I have a question on is just the doors, like the front door and the back door are shown as just flush panel doors. I'm not sure if that's really the case.
But just a quick reminder, you guys don't address doors. Doors are, if they can replace it without a permit, so you don't address the doors. And I think there was needing to be a clarification. There's some additional windows.
Mhm.
We administratively approved them on a previous permit, so you are only looking at the front porch
Oh, okay.
on Pacific.
Then no comments.
That's referred to as the doors of Dublin policy, right? Little self-expression, not a bad thing.
All right, so that one will be good to pre-approve. Moving on, we have 732 Clark Avenue. Revised drawings again. Any comments from board members?
I have no comments. It looks fine.
It looks like just minor window changes. Fine with that.
Do that one, David.
I was looking for the original one to see what was different from
Oh,
what they submitted.
gotcha.
That new plan they turned in on one side of each sheet is what the original submittal was, and on the other side is their new change that they turned in today. So you were all okay to pre-approve the original submittal, and then they came in with that change. So I'd rather that you had all looked at it before you made a determination on whether you wanted it to be pre-approved.
I'm okay with it.
Kenny, you're good with it?
Yeah, I was good to begin with, so still good.
All right. 732 Clark will be pre-approved as well. Which brings us to 110 Lithia.
Did we do 509 Clark?
509 Clark, we've got updated drawings.
Oh,
Okay,
all of these updated drawings.
Oh, okay, I got it.
It was pre-approved.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think they corrected the labels where the labels on the elevations and the photos did not match up with the site plan, and all of that looks like that's been corrected.
He was also missing a window that was on the house that was not being removed. So he clarified a couple of those things. So the window went back that is not being removed. All of the labels were corrected. It was just easier to give another set of drawings instead of make a big motion with lots of
Yes. I agree.
clarifications. So that's per the pre-approval, pre-approved based on those drawings.
All right. Now we can do 110 Lithia. Comments from the board?
Might be a question for the city, but I don't understand replacing the windows and not having them meet code if it's a double hung.
So the way that the code reads, you technically are not required to, I mean, if you have an opening, you're not required to cut a wider opening. There's a code section that says you need to get to as close as you possibly can meet. It's in the code. It's not used very often. We used to be a little bit more forceful with it, but technically they can, as long as they attempt with either whether it's with a casement or other means, they're allowed to do it unless it goes under, I think, a certain number. But so ignore that part of what they're asking about. That wasn't the concern of why it was going to you. So they have a big slider going in where there's two double hungs on the front elevation of the house. Staff had requested that they do a bar just across that window so that it would look like a double hung, so that the front elevation would be consistent with the other double hungs on the front elevation. They had stated that they didn't want to do that. And so we had brought it back before you. There's a certain amount where staff is comfortable if it's making more consistency in the house, if the windows are replacing in kind, or, again, sort of that overall, keeping that overall look. But if it's anything more than that, we felt it was important to go before the ARB.
That's this window 101.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. I think the position of those windows and with the screen wall in front of it and everything else, I don't think it's worth forcing them to change the window if they don't want to do it.
I think it would look better and more consistent with the horizontal bar, but it's okay as is, as submitted.
I'm neutral on the matter, really.
I'm sorry.
I'm neutral on the matter, pretty much.
Okay, I just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was a little bit as what Ken said, it's basically separated from the double hungs and there's other sliders on the house, so I was okay with it.
It's got a screen wall, it's on a different plane,
Right.
enough differentiation there that. And if we put the bar in, I know the reason they don't want the bar is it's right in the middle of their line of sight, but,
Yeah.
so. I would say approved as submitted is my recommendation.
Is that everyone's thought? Are there, or I'm sorry, we haven't heard from Great.
No, I mean, I understand that just seems like logically it would make sense to make all these casements and then they meet code and everything's consistent, but I know casements are more expensive, so I'm okay with it.
All right, everyone's okay, we can pre-approve. Lithia. As submitted. Right, and then we have a preliminary which we can discuss. If we still have time. And it looks like there's new drawings.
So just so you know, I took everybody's comments, which there were a lot of comments, and forward those to the architect. So this is addressing, and you'll see in the letter that's at the front, he's addressing a lot of the comments that were in there. So some of it was that the house had been flipped a couple different times. And so the windows on the floor plan didn't match with the windows on the elevation. So he's made all those corrections is my understanding. I didn't look closely at it, but there should be on that front sheet where there were a lot of comments with questions. They should be answered potentially on there. And since that is your last item on the agenda, you've got about 13 minutes. If you want to discuss that a little more, they will be available on Zoom to talk with you.
Okay.
The only comment I had on this was if they wanted to, this is at the first floor, no. The rear elevation and master bedroom, if they wanted to get rid of one of those three windows, it wouldn't bother me in the slightest. It almost looks like there's too many windows. But that's just a comment and a suggestion only. I thought the window in the little hall space looked a little forced. This is the new one. Huh? Oh, there it is. Yeah.
On item 4, it says. Oh, never mind. I read that wrong. So we are adding band board to the horizontal siding area. Probably doesn't show up on the elevations, but on the rendering, like that upper band board doesn't exist on the side, but I think that would be installed.
The revised submittal has addressed most of my questions and concerns. The only one that remains is the amount of siding on the left side elevation at the first floor. It seems to me there'd be an opportunity to work another window in, if not in the kitchen, perhaps in the butler pantry area.
Looks like there's a lot of exposed concrete. No. Wonder if maybe we suggest that concrete has a finished look to it of some sort, since we will be seeing a lot of it at the sides.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good comment because there's quite a bit of it exposed. I'm a little bit with Carol on the left elevation. If it was some way to work a window in the kitchen, I think that would help that elevation a bit. And the interior, so,
Not gonna do much for the kitchen.
I mean, absolutely would be awesome to have windows in there. There's not a wall in my kitchen that doesn't have windows. It's great.
And that would be your house.
Right. No, but I'm saying this idea that, you know, if someone says it's a kitchen, so it can't have windows because it would mess up with the kitchen, that's what I'm basically saying. I think it would enhance it. So,
Especially if you're cooking something that takes a long time, you won't be just staring at a blank wall.
It looks like there's a lot of storage in there.
It also would be nice to have some more natural light in there, I think, in the work area.
yeah, absolutely.
Which direction does the left wall face? The north, south, east, or west? East, looks like east, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
East side, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe transom windows above the casework? Possible.
I think even a small window in that butler pantry area would help break it up a bit. It doesn't have to be huge, but really small. That would break it up.
I would support your suggestion to do that. Unless they want to throw some windows in the kitchen, I think that's their call.
All right.
We're just talking a small accent window.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be great.
I would counter it by saying, eliminate one of those three windows up there and swap out.
Sure,
Maybe they like those windows up there.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would agree with what you said, Ken, like if, because sometimes folks are looking for windows somewhere and, I'd be up for that. Swap out. Cause I agree, I don't disagree with what you said about them. It looks a little crowded, but if that's what their preference,
And if they were to do that window, a little tiny accent one, you might do in the hall too, so, but,
sure.
yeah, if you swap, basically move the window around and put it in that pantry, and they're cool with it, I'd go with it.
I just noticed this for the first time and it doesn't look like it's in the comments. There's a wood burning fireplace in the corner of the great room, but where does the flue go? Or is there a chimney?
Green.
Good question.
That would be a good question to ask.
Yeah. Okay,
Put that down.
okay.
Yeah, that's gonna come up through the master.
Maybe it's blue wall gas, but actually fireplace is gonna need a little more space like we're showing too. So
Yeah.
for that schematic at this point.
Yeah, good point.
And it's actually an odd location for a fireplace on the corner of the building too, so maybe
Mhm.
suggest they flip the great room. So the fireplace is on the plan south face, more toward the center.
Good question. We're good to go.
Yep.
Did that conclude your work session?
Yep, I think we're finished with the work session. We got a minute to go.
Oh, I asked Maura a question on the Wiggins residence that we're gonna be reviewing. My friend lives next door to that. Would that make me any, okay, no issues with that, okay.
No, the only time you have a conflict of interest is when you have, one, you're the architect on the project.
Right.
Two, you're the owner of the property. Or three, if you have a monetary interest in the property. So no concerns. Everybody has friends and neighbors in
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of these properties.
And my friend's for it, so.
It's a little, Mara, it's a little bit unusual, but if we're gonna pre-approve it, does Tracy have to leave the room?
I'm just going to let you guys pre-approve
Yeah.
with the vote. So do all your pre-approvals. She'll recuse herself from
Right.
that one. Yeah,
That's what I figured.
typically just as a reminder.
For
'cause
David.
when someone is, when their project is on, they are supposed to technically recuse themselves and leave the room. But when we're just doing pre-approvals, we won't require her to walk out of the room for 2 seconds and come back.
Right. All right. Ready to go? All right, well, welcome everyone to the Architectural Review Board meeting, January 5th. We just finished our work session, so the official meeting is now underway. Introduce Yolanda Wilkins and Andrew Klosterman with the city. We have Sarah Richardson, City Council Liaison, who's online, Carol Dunkey and Tracy Collins, and Ken Burns and David Yates. Myself, Bob Buckman, volunteer architects on the ARB. First item of business, we have approval of meeting minutes from December 15th. Do I have a motion?
Sure. I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, December 15th meeting minutes are approved. Next item, we have a number of pre-approvals. So when I ask for a motion, please refer to the handouts that were given to us when we came in today. When you read the motion. First one will be 25 and 29 West Moody Avenue.
Make a motion to approve the updated drawings received this evening for 25 and 29 West Moody Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, 25 and 29 West Moody Avenue is approved. Next, we have 740 East Pacific Avenue. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve 740 East Pacific Avenue per the updated drawings received 1/5/23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 740 East Pacific Avenue is approved. Next, we have 723 Clark Avenue FAR approval. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 732 Clark Avenue FAR approval is pre-approved. Next, we have 732 Clark Avenue rear addition. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve 732 Clark Avenue drawings received this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? 732 Clark Avenue is approved. Next, we have 509 Clark Avenue. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 509 Clark Avenue per the updated drawings submitted on 1/4/2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 509 Clark Avenue is approved. Next, we have 59 Wilshire Terrace. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve 58 Wilshire Terrace with the understanding that an additional window will be added to the east elevation of the garage that will match the 2 fixed windows on the front of the addition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? 58 Wilshire Terrace is approved. Next, we have 110 Lithia. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve 110 Lithia as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 110 Lithia is approved. Then we have 360 Hillside Avenue. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 360 Hillside Avenue with the clarification that the gable end of the front porch is open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right,
That was an aye.
oh. Sorry, I didn't. Opposed. So 360 Hillside Avenue is approved. Tracy was recused. All right, so that's the end of our pre-approvals. Next on our list, we have As if we call your project, please ask you to come forward and introduce yourself. First one is 48 Mason Avenue, which is a public hearing.
Hello,
Good evening.
I recognize some of you.
Likewise.
My name is John Reeve, and I've been a resident of Webster Park for 25 years. And we really enjoy being in Webster and Webster Park. And I've invested significantly in upgrades for sustainability over the years. So I put in most recently photovoltaics on the backside of the house. And I did a geothermal system replacing all of the existing systems. And I put in a charger, electric vehicle charger. All of those have been very valuable improvements in the house. I'd like to add, as the submittal shows, a design of panels for the front of the house, which I understand your guidelines explicitly reject. But I believe that the new panel designs that are black on black, they're black frames, black glass, are very different from the old industrial bright metal frames with internal patterning within the glass panels. And there are many of them around Webster, and one notably across the street from Mary Queen of Peace on Lockwood. And what is shown in those in the submittal is something much cleaner, much simpler, much less obtrusive. In fact, I would say unoffensive, unobtrusive. And I'd like the panel to consider their guidelines, the board to reconsider their guidelines, which I wasn't able to determine exactly when those guidelines were written or what the origin of those guidelines are exactly. And maybe you have some reference for that. But I think both the design of photovoltaics has changed in the interim since that was written, and the objection of those in any visible sense view from the public standpoint. And I think notably the world has changed. And I think that a homeowner that's willing to invest significant dollars in doing something sustainably correct, and not all homeowners can do it. In fact, I would say there's a very small fraction of homeowners in Webster Park that can do it because of the roof orientation, the configuration of the roof, dormers, other obstacles, trees, and so forth and so on. And I walk the park often, and my unofficial or unscientific assessment is there may be 5 houses that have the ability to do something like this. So the notion that in approving this, the floodgates of approval somehow in Webster Park would be, would open, I think is not the case. By the way, I was present for the historic designation. I favored it. I approved it. In the original selling of that, there was, and I think it was on the website, but it was a much more modest idea of what the constraints were going to be on homeowners. In fact, it was soft sold that what you would be able to do or not do on the house, on a homeowner's property. So I respectfully urge this board to revisit their guidelines if they need to do it in order to approve, but to consider this broader, more current perspective on adding solar voltaics to the house, to homes. In the submittal, there's also some pictures that are not there's some approximations of what my house might look like with the 18 panels that I'm suggesting on the street side. But there are also some pictures from the installer that show the same panel design, the black on black, no bright metal panel design on other properties. And I think my view is, and I hope you would agree, that it's not an obtrusive appearance. It's certainly not grotesque in any sense of that word. It wouldn't, in my view, as an architect, it wouldn't damage the appearance of Webster Park or the community. And as a homeowner, I wouldn't do something that I thought was going to damage the value of the house. So I'm asking you to consider this request in a broader context than just your direct mission or charter to speak to historic issues. I think I would advocate that you consider it as a balanced judgment, balancing both the appearance issues, which is primarily what you're addressing, and this broader issue of sustainable investments and Webster Groves broadly leading the way in that regard.
Okay.
Questions?
Would add one other point, and that is the installation, if these were to be installed, they could be removed and not have had a detrimental effect on the existing property, which is a consideration as well.
No, absolutely.
I think you were here for our comments earlier, I think.
After 5.
Yeah.
Say earlier, yeah.
So I think I'm more than empathetic with you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think another consideration would be that it's an orderly,
Array, yeah.
orderly collection upon the roof. We're not showing a gap in it because there's a vent stack coming up and all that too. So I think you've given it fine consideration, and if it's something were to be approved, you meet all the criteria, and then we're going to vote. But
Yeah.
I get it, and it's just the ordinance is what it is, unfortunately, and I don't really agree with the ordinance. But there is wiggle room.
I don't know that the ordinance incorporates the guidelines.
So gotta give her a second. So I did do research because Mr. Reeve had asked for this information, and I was able to dig down deep through all the old paperwork. I was able to finally find, and I do not have a determination from the city attorney on this yet, but the guidelines themselves were crafted by the Webster Park Neighborhood Association, and they took a vote on it. I have the date of when they took the vote. They then forwarded that to the Historic Preservation Commission, who approved it as part of the submittal to City Council. It was approved and is listed in the ordinance as being a part of one of the documents related to the approval of the ordinance itself. So if there was going to be a change, which I don't know when that change could, I mean, like that change would have to, with the city attorney's help, be reviewed on how they would have to go through that process, but it is attached to the ordinance designating it as a local historic district, which was done after it was a national historic district. So it went national first with no guidelines under just the Secretary of Interior standards. Then it became through Webster Park. And I've gathered all the documentation on all of the different meetings and the dates when all of those were held, but it was approved by a subcommittee of the Webster Park Neighborhood Association and part of their submittal for a historic designation.
Is it under the heading of a guideline as opposed to?
It's written as a guideline. The wording is guideline. However, it is attached to the ordinance and it's related. And again, how you all want to take it, you are more than
Sure.
welcome to take it in terms of the determination. I just simply did find and confirm that
Yeah.
it was attached to the ordinance, whereas it's a little bit murky on how it's attached to Central Webster and Marshall Place. There's minutes from those council meetings talking about their guidelines and approving them and making amendments to them when they approved their historic district. But because in the 1980s, they weren't specific with their attachments. The attachments aren't attached to a formal ordinance, but that's also their filing system for historic versus how I file my plan commission. It's a little different. So it was missing that. But in terms of this particular Webster Park ordinance, it was one of the key elements that was attached to the approval of the ordinance.
And is there a process by which a resident can go to that group and see if they might be willing to make. any kind of
I'm
changes?
still, again, I'm trying to get the city attorney to look and make a determination on that because again, staff time researching it, we've done
Yeah.
the best that we could in terms of the research.
Yeah. I mean, mindsets have changed a lot since the eighties about sustainability and
The ordinance was not written in the eighties for this. This was written less than 10 years ago, in the last
Oh,
7 or 8
okay,
years.
okay.
No, the guidelines that are in Central Webster and Marshall Place are from the eighties. These guidelines were done just in the last, I'll have to go back and look at the exact date, but
Okay.
they were recent.
I remember when it was happening because I had a client in Webster Park and he asked me what I thought about it. And it's because of this kind of thing, I suggested that he doesn't support it and he didn't, but it did meet what the majority of the people. in the neighborhood.
If it's relevant, Missouri has passed a law, SB 820.
For homeowners associations,
Well,
it doesn't really cities.
I get that, but you said it originated in the homeowner, Webster Park
An
homeowner.
interesting legal
So-
point that we can't get into here.
Yeah,
that's
so we
what- so
can
we-
get into that later. So just FYI, there is, one of the solar companies came into me and was trying to say that we couldn't review solar panels anymore. We went back and looked at and confirmed, it is only that homeowners association guideline, indentures that we don't uphold anyway as a city are the only thing that cannot prohibit solar. Doesn't talk about whether you could still look at the design. This is not, this element might have come from the homeowners association, but it was sent for a historic nomination. And that nomination went through multiple public hearings with review by the organizations. So again, the legalities of it, I don't have additional legalities.
So another point was that I had originally learned from you, Mara, that the origin of the guidelines was the Interior Secretary's 250-page document, which
Yeah.
I reviewed in detail, and it doesn't source out of that. So you have just said it's sourced instead out of a local vote, maybe by the local Webster Park group. I was around during that time, and I was engaged in some of those discussions. I don't remember that. Anyway, maybe we can bring it back to what is in front of us.
Yeah.
I would like to hear the opinion of this board about the substance of this. If there's a legal question that we need to sort through and go to the council or whatever we need to do, I'm willing to do that. But I guess I'm interested in the sense of this board in terms of what's in front of it.
Right. So I'm gonna let each board member talk. So I know Ken's given his, I'll let David express his thoughts.
Yeah. Hello, hi. Before, when I was reviewing this yesterday to give my comments to Mara, I wasn't aware of the ordinances and all that. And I was very for it. Just because, as long as you don't hurt the character of the base building or ruin the architecture and they can be removed in the future. That was my opinion on that. And I'm empathetic towards you. As architects, I think most of us here are all of us are all sustainability minded and all. I would love to see a vehicle put in place that you could maybe reevaluate as a neighborhood association or if that could allow it to happen. I am looking at the site plan or the aerial view that you propose here. Is there a way to get those 18 panels on I'll say the south roofs of your home? Is there enough exposure there?
The backside has been optimized or maximized for solar panels.
Oh, right. I'm
So
seeing what I think might be a family room or something with a chimney on the south face of the building. I see two roof pitches that are facing east and west, if those could be
On the
used.
backside, there's skylights on those that would obstruct that. I mean, I've literally, last time I was here with a front and back a photovoltaic scheme. Basically, it was the front side, well, the whole thing was turned down because it had the street facing
Yeah.
thing. That was in 2019.
Yep.
And so I withdrew it or didn't pursue it. And then I've come back and I was approved for
What's
this,
there?
the rear side. So the roofs on the rear side of the house have been optimized with about 17 panels.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Okay.
that just to clarify what's
Yeah,
shown.
yeah, but you know, I'm definitely empathetic on, you know, and if there's a way to get this to happen, I'd be supportive.
Carol,
First of all, I applaud your efforts for sustainability. Thank you. I have recently, just through the link that Mara sent to us, looked at the National Park Service website, and it does specifically address solar panels in historic districts visible from the street.
Mhm.
And they are deemed unacceptable for aesthetic reasons. And what you're saying is true. They're less obtrusive than they used to be, but there's also an issue of reflectivity. And that does make them very visible. And there's also, you know, standards that address the reflectivity of various parts of the building. So I do think that's a consideration. And we are where we are as far as the history of how the district came to be and the guidelines and the ordinance. So that being said, we are where we are. Now, if there was changes to that, of course, there would be reconsideration. But at this point, I would still not be supportive of the solar panels on the front elevation.
okay, Tracy,
Yeah, I was curious if, it looks like, are there balconies on either side? Are those accessible?
So-
Is that a surface that we could use or
The only one that would be
benefit?
relevant
from?
would be the south
Yeah, 'cause
balcony.
that looks like a lot of
Oh,
area.
But it's been evaluated for exposure and it doesn't work. It's too tight between the rail and the building and the sun angle doesn't yield anything. So, or
Yeah.
doesn't yield enough to make it worth putting them on
Mhm.
so.
Mm.
No, I mean, we originally had that in the mix, in
Yeah.
the array. So it just
Right.
doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a good point with the way that the panels look now. It's different. It's more attractive than it used to be, but I guess I still see it as a black surface on a gray roof, which seems,
So that
If it was
raises an interesting question.
yeah, I know
So,
we're not supposed to look at color.
Well, what
specifically
if
this
the
one.
roof was a slate
Black.
colored, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, the house was originally had a slate roof.
right?
So it had a black roof originally.
Mhm.
Over the years, homeowners have picked different patterns and
Yeah.
colors and so forth, so on. So I mean,
Sure.
would your opinion of it be different if the background color was
From-
very close or similar or?
I
dark?
think it would help it go away because just looking at this aerial photo, the black, I mean,
Yeah,
it's pretty prevalent
yes,
in a field of gray.
and that's true. It is a field of
Yeah.
gray. It's a blue-gray
Yeah.
asphalt roof today.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that would help our case, but I still feel as though I know the neighbors have created this guideline and I feel like I can't vote against the guidelines that neighborhood enacted. You know,
So I think there's a way forward in terms of going back to, I mean, if I petitioned people on the street or in the neighborhood, I bet you I'd get a huge support base for it.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a next step. But again, I wanted to get the opinion of this board
Yeah.
going forward. It looks like I'm
Sure.
not sure what the result of this discussion is, Bob.
Right. My thought on this, John, is that, I mean, we've looked at this on the years I've been on this board a few times. And I still kind of had the same viewpoint because of the Secretary of Interior's standards and the preservation guidelines both. But I've tried to look at it objectively, and I see the value in having every project evaluated on its own merit. And so the one, even though I do agree that the black panels are moving in the right direction, there are other technologies. I personally haven't used any of them, but I don't know if I was going to ask you if you've looked into the GAF roof shingles or the Tesla. And because when I saw yours come back up again, I too walk in the park, because we're close to each other there. And I looked at all the roofs and I thought there is something about that flat plane and whatever's on that roof blending in. And, I think that's where the question lies, is all solar panels, or are there some solar panels that may be less objective? I think at the beginning of the meeting, I used the example, if you had a standing seam roof on a historic house, if you had a similar color photo material on that, that might be acceptable for me. I've done a lot of research on similar projects and where this has come up around the country in the past, and researched a bit of this, and I've seen that, and it makes sense to me. One of the things about the solar panels, even though I agree that they're black and they're not silver, but they still are reflective and they still do protrude from the roof. So in some ways, the character defining features of a historic fabric is actually it's the street itself. It's every house. And as personally as I thought that through, if that projected glass panel still seems a little, I'd have to see. I don't think it. I think it goes against the idea of. I think it would stand out personally, and I wondered about the opportunity of the shingles if you've looked into it, and then also just to make the comment. You still have your garage too. I'm sure you've looked at putting shingles on there as well. So.
There's a huge tree in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Cuts that.
Gotcha.
So we CertainTeed and GAF.
Yeah.
Tesla's out of the question.
Right.
It's way too expensive. It's silly,
Right.
just frankly.
They're not quite as efficient. I believe.
No,
Yeah.
but GAF and CertainTeed both have come out with products. None of them are off the coast yet.
Yeah.
They're basically California, Arizona,
Yeah.
the West Coast, and then a little bit the East Coast. And I've contacted both of them, and they have no schedule for when they're going to be available in the middle of the country. Frankly, the GAF one, I think, is more, it's shingle-like, but it has this weird pattern of sort of a stacking of configuration of the shingles with
Yeah.
intersecting parallel lines that are collecting up the electricity lines.
Yeah.
So it frankly, what's on the page in my presentation is less sort of odd, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The CertainTeed one it looks like it has more potential.
Yeah. The
But again,
Apollo,
it's not available.
Apollo 2 or
Apollo
something.
2.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean, I hear what you're saying in terms of the origin of the guidelines. But I think that the guidelines need to be revisited. I think they're having a categorical rule about skylights is on the same line, but solar panels isn't really in the spirit of judging things on its own merits. So you're as a board, you're addressing aesthetics. And I think that there are many examples of solar panel arrays that are abhorrent. They're grotesque. They're ugly.
Mhm.
This design is not. It's clean, it's simple, it's a rectangle. If I change the base color of the shingles, it would go away. I think the reflectivity properties are very low. So you refer to it, I don't disagree with it, but it's very low reflectivity. It's because of the way the surface is designed. I don't know if the installer can get me some actual stats on that, but that would be something to look into.
Mhm.
My parting comment would be, that I look at a situation like this and have consistently whenever these things come up is that there's three parts to history. There's the past, the present, and the future. And I think you've done a nice job of going forward and with respect to the house and all that. I'm not going to infer how the vote's going to go, but I would wish you all the best if you wanted to pursue it with the local neighborhood and see if you can arouse some interest in it, which then again would help your cause of maybe coming back to City Hall. But I'm comfortable with what you did, but it doesn't meet this little piece of the ordinance, and that's I think a stumbling block for the board here.
Well, I hope that the board, which has a singular focus, I hope that in looking at your mission going forward, you can take a more balanced view of how to integrate sustainability investments. You know, if a homeowner is willing to make investments in sustainability, you ought to be trying to support them in doing that. It's not,
Sure.
it's no money out of the city coffers.
Right.
It's my investment in the
Right.
future. And by the way, the payback isn't great,
Yeah,
but it's something that I feel I need to do, want to do.
right.
And I think the city ought to find a way to support it.
Yeah, definitely commendable. I assume, John, you've already replaced all your windows in the house.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd ask. That's always the first thing. It's like how to be really sustainable, get,
Well, I've
windows that don't
invested-
leak.
So the house was built in 29/30.
Yeah,
And I've invested a huge amount of money in it with all new systems.
sure.
3 relatively major additions that you all have approved,
Yep.
and they're historically correct.
And they look great.
They look great. So I'm in favor as an architect in the role of the Architectural Review Board,
Yeah.
but I think your guidelines need to be updated.
All right.
Just one moment.
You made a very
Yeah.
persuasive argument.
Yeah.
We've got an ordinance here.
Yeah.
I just had
Stumbling block.
one more thing to say, and it's just along the line of what Ken was saying. I thank you very much for your very thoughtful presentation. It's obviously very well thought out. It's something you feel very strongly about, and moving forward to change the ordinance, if that's something you feel strongly about, by all means, pursue it. And I really appreciate your thoughtful and respectful approach to all this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks, John.
We did have a hand up, but
It is a public hearing, right? So, the next thing on the list is to ask if there's anyone here present, beside Mr. Reeve that wants to make a comment. And if you're on Zoom, please raise your Zoom hand and we'll add you to the panel or attendees who can hear you. And introduce yourself as well.
Let's see here, Brian Binkholder from Astrowatt Solar, who's handling the project for Mr. Reeve. He did a fantastic job, and I appreciate you all listening and taking all this into consideration. I just wanted to throw out if there's any questions that you might have for me in all of this. I understand your guidance to him, and we appreciate that. We've done other projects within the city that our quality of work definitely, shows for itself. And I would just throw that out. If any of you have a question right now, I'm more than happy to answer it.
How about the reflectivity question?
Oh, yeah, Brian,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's on the solar panels, actually, windows on homes create a lot more reflectivity of, definitely when they have some sort of film blocking. And I say that from personal experience. I'm in O'Fallon, Missouri. I have 35 panels on my house. And with the pitch and the angle of the roof, there's definitely no hindrance to traffic or anything else. And in my house, I'm in an older section of O'Fallon that was built on an older design, Winghaven. So we're right up next to a street. There would definitely not be an issue there for Mr. Reed. And I don't, there might be some studies I can find for you and we'll try to dig up, but again, the pitch of how the roof is and then the panels, that has never been an issue that we've had. The only case in that has been when you're doing a ground mount situation, lower to the ground, you know, but again, that's not going to apply for something in this situation.
All right, any other question for Brian? All right, Brian, thank you for your comments and being available for us if we had any additional questions. I think we're good.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve 48 Mason Avenue as submitted.
Do I have a second?
I second,
Okay, all in favor?
as kind of an act of polite civil disobedience, I'd say yes in this case.
Okay, opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed? All right, there's the motion. Thanks, Mr. Reeve. Have a good evening. Moving on, we have one additional project. We have a preliminary new house at 830 Marshall Avenue. If you're on Zoom, to raise your hand and Yolanda will add you.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Good evening. Hello, yep.
Awesome. So my name is Matt Moore. I'm with FM Design Build, Webster resident as well.
Great. Welcome, Matt. We had some discussion at the beginning. I'm not sure if you heard us. It looks like you addressed a lot of the questions at the beginning. We appreciate that. I think there were still a few additional comments and I will begin with Carol.
Okay.
Yeah, did you have a chance, Matthew, to hear our pre-meeting?
I'm sorry, I sure didn't. I caught the tail end of it. I actually apologize. I can't be there in person. I'm on dad duty tonight, so I was trying to get the kids dealt with. So.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know if you had heard any
No,
of it
sorry. I
or
caught
not.
like the last maybe five or 10 minutes of it. And that was it.
Okay, my comment is that on your left side elevation on the first floor, there's that long expanse of siding. And something to break that up would be very helpful, even if it was just like a small window in that butler pantry area. And I think, you know, the other board members, we discussed it, and that seemed to be something that people would be amenable to if that's something you would like to consider.
Yeah, I'll run that by our clients too. We actually had that area designed with some floating shelves in the middle. So it might be kind of a cool feature even to potentially incorporate a window to that. So I think that could work.
Yeah, I think that would help a lot. That's my only objection to the design is that long expensive siding. So if
Okay.
we could get that addressed, that would be great. And most of my other questions and concerns were answered in your updated drawing. So thank you
Okay.
for that.
You got it.
All right, Tracy.
Yeah, I think all the corrections that you've made address a lot of my comments that I had. The only thing that I've noticed now on the revised drawings is it looks like there will be a lot of exposed concrete on the sides. And I'm just wondering if what that finish will be. Will it just be, I mean, we don't want to see raw board.
Yeah, good question. I should show it that way. We actually do furring strips in the foundation so we can run the siding down and kind of match that grade, either step it or usually try and kind of hit the angle of the finished grading. So we'll cover up most of that except for maybe like a foot of it on the sides.
As an alternative to that, I'm not a big fan of dropping the siding down to the grade. I think it just makes the house look goofy, but I would be agreeable if you just did a rub and a colorization of it.
Okay.
The house.
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree.
Okay.
I agree with that too.
I'd agree with that too.
Okay. I mean, I'd prefer that too. So that's Great.
I agree with Ken. I think having, sometimes it looks a little goofy when it runs down with the grade. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. David?
Yeah, hi, Matthew.
Hey.
One thing I noticed, I had noticed when I was reviewing it yesterday was, there's a, wood grain fireplace shown in the great room and is wondering what, would it be a chimney of some sort?
We were just thinking of fire pit in the middle of the family room. No, actually, this is the part I did catch. And I apologize. It's a gas direct vent now. We changed it. We looked at taking that through the master bedroom and we didn't want to lose that space. They really did want it in the corner though. That was like a very specific request. But it'll be a direct vent gas now.
Okay.
I just needed a clarification. I had the wrong house in front of me when we started this thing, but Carol's comment about the window, was that to be the accent window in the butler's pantry?
Yeah.
I'm good. And you're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm fine.
Yep.
Okay. And I appreciate, Matt, you adding that as well. I agree with you, as I think as your comment was, it's kind of a custom feature in the Butler pantry, and I think it'll really enhance that space. I've also had some clients in the past, when they don't want the window, when you describe it as an opaque glass that at least allows light in, or you can do something really nice, pattern glass, and they're like, oh, that's really, so there's always those considerations. So I appreciate you adding that. And then with the hand rub concrete as well, I'm good. I think the house looks great.
Can I ask one question? I guess I just wanted to get your opinion. I added the railings, to everything to make it look more accurate, and just it feels pretty busy on the front. Are we allowed, or is there any reason we couldn't just come down from the porch and then go over to the garage just to avoid having those long walls down to the sidewalk and having these railings go all the way down? It just felt a little bit like a cage, I guess. I didn't know if there was any kind of ordinance that we had to connect down to the sidewalk from the front door though, or.
Mara's shaking her head.
I don't have a set of the.
Oh, just like having the walkway go all the way to the sidewalk here instead of just going right there.
Oh, no, not required.
No requirement, sounds like.
Okay, I was thinking, if you guys were open to that, I thought that might clean up the front a little bit. We'd still have the railings on the porch, but that long staircase with the railing just kind of felt a little bit strange to me.
I don't know
Oh.
if you would need a railing at that. It is kind of nice to have a stair up to the entry, but I don't know if you need railing on it.
On the stair.
Yeah. Do you?
Kind of
Andrew, why
form
can't you-
following function, isn't it?
Yeah.
Depends on how high the stairs are off the ground.
Right.
If
Yeah.
More than 30 inches off the ground.
Right.
It needs guard railing,
Right.
and if the stairs have 4 or more risers, it needs handrail.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I
we're-
think you would actually need a handrail. Yeah, to your point.
yeah, you're right.
Yes, right now, how you're showing it with all the pickets down the stair may not be required, as long as the grade is, under 30 inches from the stair.
Okay, and it
Right.
would be, yeah.
And I agree that would look a lot cleaner if you just had the handrail there, as long as it meets code.
Okay.
All right.
And just, I'm sorry, real quick to close that up. Is that something that if I gave the homeowners the choice, if they wanted to connect down to the sidewalk with just a handrail or connect to the garage, can we make that call, or is that something we need to kind of have, clarified with you guys?
So that doesn't need to go to ARB.
Okay,
But make that change before you get your plans approved for us to issue.
okay,
Because if not, you're gonna have to come back with an amendment.
gotcha. Okay, that's no problem.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to ask for a motion on 830 Marshall Avenue.
Concrete.
Concrete exit window
yeah.
on the left and the fireplace's direct vent gas. That's what I've got.
I'll make a motion to approve 830 Marshall Avenue with the following clarifications. The exposed concrete on the sides in front of the exposed concrete on the house will have a hand rub finish. The fireplace will be a direct vent gas fireplace. And an accent window will be added to the butler pantry.
Second,
All in favor?
Can I ask one thing?
Yep.
Ken commented that he would like to see a color and add to the concrete as well as the rubbed. So is that correct or?
I would think you'd want to do something with it.
Hand rubbed concrete that's colored.
Okay.
Usually they rub it and paint it, I guess.
Right.
I'll just clarify that the hand rub finish will have a colorant added to the motion.
All right. Do I have a second then?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye, opposed. All right, Matt, you're approved. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. You too.
Thanks. Meeting is adjourned.
Beat out Dave on the second.
Has both of them at the same